Welcome, everyone. My name is Louie Goros. I'm the Managing Director and Head of Distribution for Kingsbarn Real Estate Capital. And with us today, we have Gene Wechsler with Wechsler Accountancy Corporation. Gene, thank you very much for being here today.
You're welcome, Louie.
So, Gene, tell me a little bit about yourself and about your background.
Well, I've been a practicing CPA for longer than I'd like to admit, which is more than 40 years. I've either been a partner in a CPA firm or had my own CPA firm for probably more than 30 years now. And I have a very diversified practice. A lot of my clients are involved in real estate as owners, developers, investors. And so it's kind of led us to meet and to do a lot of things together.
Let's talk about Kingsbarn. So how did you and I first meet?
I've been a CPA for, 40 plus years. And I have a lot of clients in the real estate industry, real estate investors. Actually, it was one of my clients who's a commercial real estate broker who had a client of his who he just helped sell a property. And the client was looking for a 1031 exchange. And the real estate broker recommended Kingsbarn. I guess you and he had met previously. And this client of the brokers, let's say he was rather inquisitive and had lots and lots and lots of questions. So the broker, my client, brought me into this, and I dealt with the investor and an attorney and the broker and financial advisors and everybody just trying to answer this guy's questions. And in the process, you and I got to know each other a little bit, and I got to know a little bit about Kingsbarn. And I have to say, I was impressed immediately.
So before you and I crossed paths there, have you ever even heard of a DST before?
Yeah, I had. As I say, I've got a lot of clients that are real estate investors. My practice has just kind of developed that way over the years. And so my clients are always buying and selling properties and looking for exchanges. I'd heard of DSTs, but I really hadn't had any experience with them. And I'd actually taken a webinar probably within a month or two before we met. And so I got a lot of the basics on DSTs, and I was actually very positively impressed with what a DST could do as a 1031 exchange vehicle, as opposed to the client just investing maybe in a triple net property or tenant in common or just going out and buying real estate on their own. So I had a positive view of DSTs, but until we started dealing with each other, first with this one client, then with many others, I hadn't had any direct dealings as far as clients investing in DSTs.
So what do you personally like about the DST model?
Well, on behalf of the clients, I've got clients that as they age, they want to do less. They want to have less responsibility for property management. And I think that's a big thing with the DST model. With a DST, it truly is a passive investment for the client. Kingsbarn specifically does everything from start to finish: the identification of the property, the packaging of the property, the sale, the management, the distribution of checks. Many of my clients are very interested in having the non-managerial type of passive income. They after a while, they get tired of tenants, toilets, and trash.
Yep. I was gonna say the same.
Yeah. And I can understand that. So as my clients have gotten older, as they've started to sell off their properties, I've recommended more and more that they take a serious look at DSTs as a good alternative for the passive income without the management headaches.
Now, we both know there's other sponsors out there in the space. Have you ever spoken to any of the other DST sponsors?
I get a lot of promotional emails and the like from the sponsors, but my own way of doing things is if I find something that works and something that's good and something that has no holes in it, I'm not always out looking for something better. So no, I really haven't dealt with any other DST sponsors. I have clients that have obtained DSTs from other sponsors, but I haven't had any direct dealings. I know it sounds like a commercial, but to be honest with you, I'm very happy with Kingsbarn, and I have no issues in referring my clients to Kingsbarn because I know what you guys do and how you do things here. So for me, it's a very easy referral.
So your company's been around for how many years now?
Well, I've been a CPA for 40 plus years.
Okay.
I've been either a partner in an accounting firm or had my own firm for probably the last 30 years.
So what value does Kingsbarn bring to your company?
Well, unlike some CPAs, let's say, who are primarily accountants and tax preparers, I do a lot of consulting with clients. My practice has just kind of developed this way over the years. And so I have clients that always come to me with whatever their financial issues are. And again, having a concentration in real estate with a lot of my clients, I have many clients who are looking for a better way to do things. My clients come to me and say, what should I do? I want to sell the property. What do I do? 1031 exchange is obviously something that I promote and have always promoted strongly to clients to avoid income tax on the sale of a property. Now having a DST company like Kingsbarn and having all that Kingsbarn has to offer that I can refer a client to, it makes it easier for me to say to them, yes, we can get out of this one property, you can sell it, here's a good alternative, you collect the passive income, you don't have the management headaches, and you could relax a little bit. So if I can do that for a client, if I can help a client solve a problem, which is really what this is, then fantastic. That's what I'm in business for.
So is it safe to say that you would recommend Kingsbarn to a family member or a close friend?
I have, absolutely. Yeah, some of the clients that have invested with Kingsbarn are not just clients of mine, but they are close friends. And so I wouldn't recommend anything to somebody that I'm close with. I wouldn't recommend something to anybody that I'm not close with, that I don't believe in, but certainly those people that I am close with. So yeah, absolutely.
So let's say someone's on the fence with, buying a different residential property or looking at a single tenant triple net. What advice would you give them when they're considering going with a DST and going with Kingsbarn?
Well, I think it depends on where somebody is in their life. Again, my client base, just like me, we're getting older. And there seems to be a trend, at least among my clients, for less management, less headaches, more passive income. Clients, certainly there are deals out there where people can go out and buy real estate directly, or buy tenant in common interests, or invest in real estate partnerships. But a DST, I think, provides the best of all worlds for a client. And that's why it's become kind of my number one for my clients as far as what they want to do in a 1031 exchange. Again, some people have all kinds of different objectives, and there are different stages in their financial lives, but for most of my clients, a DST is a perfect answer.
So we worked together several times in the past. Why don't you walk us through, share one of the stories from start to finish of how things went?
Well, we've done this a lot of times, you and I.
We have.
So rather than one story, let's talk about one client. So I have one client that has had a lot of real estate over his life. He was a builder developer. He ended up with a lot of real estate, mostly residential. And a few years ago, he came to me and said, listen, I'm tired of having partners. He was in a lot of limited partnerships where he didn't have necessarily management control, and other partnerships where they were general partnerships where he and the other partners just couldn't agree on a lot of things. And he finally came to me. He said, look, these properties, they've appreciated. I want to get out. And he said, I really don't want partners anymore. I have my other properties I'm fine with, but I really don't want partners. And I said, well, I think I have an alternative for you, where we've got institutional quality properties that you even at your level, you probably couldn't get into easily. You can get into them, you can buy into a piece of them, but you really don't have partners. There are other investors, but they're not partners, one of the beauties of the DST. It'll provide the passive income for you. You don't have the challenges that you have now with all of these properties, with having to put more money in the tenant challenges and so on. And I think he's invested now with Kingsbarn probably a dozen different times or so. So, and
he
he's very, very happy with it, by the way. So it wasn't just solving a problem, it's solving a problem. And now with hindsight, he's been a Kingsbarn investor for probably 2 to 3 years now. He's delighted with this. It really helped solve the issue he was trying to solve.
And he's in several other products outside of the DST.
Correct.
So aside from me, and it's been an absolute pleasure, who else at Kingsbarn have you worked with?
You know, I've had an opportunity to deal with a lot of the folks at Kingsbarn. You've been kind enough to refer a lot of people to me. It seems that in the DST space, there's still sometimes a bit of a confusion out there in the tax preparation world as far as a DST, and it really shouldn't be that confusing, but sometimes it is. And so some clients you have referred to me because their tax preparers really didn't know quite how to handle the DST and the cost segregation aspects and so on. And so in that process, I've gotten to deal with a lot of the folks in the accounting department here, as well as Jeff, the owner of Kingsbarn. One of the things that I've been very impressed with is the professionalism from everybody that I've dealt with here. Everybody does their job extremely well and knows their job extremely well. And the communication to clients, as we've had clients that have looked to become investors with Kingsbarn, obviously they have questions. As they've had questions, you and Jeff and the folks in the accounting department and the property managers have all been so professional and generous in the time of answering the questions. It's one of the things that I've enjoyed about working with Kingsbarn is that the communication from everybody here. You deal with the clients, directly about the investment, but you have all these people who have a very important peripheral involvement in it, who have been fantastic in terms of fully answering clients' questions and concerns and making sure that the communication has always been there fully with the client. So I've dealt with a lot of different people, but my experience with all of them has been the same, and that is professional and fully communicative and available for the clients.
Well, thank you for that. So you just mentioned cost segregation in your last answer. For those that are listening, could you explain the benefits of a cost segregation study on the DST investment?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is one of the other things that I appreciate about how Kingsbarn deals with their DSTs. Cost segregation is a process. It's kind of a combination engineering accounting process where you look at a building and you can segregate out the components of the building that, according to the IRS, have a shorter useful life. A building, say a commercial building, the IRS says this has a useful life for tax depreciation purposes of 39 years. So you can leave it at that and buy $1 million building and write it off over 39 years. Well, that $50,000 a year write-off on that, it's something, it's not, but over 39, 40 years, it doesn't give taxpayers the full benefit. However, a cost segregation study comes in and says this $1 million building consists of all kinds of little components, and they go through a full study and they segregate out components of the buildings that according to the IRS have a shorter life and can therefore be depreciated over a shorter time period. Now, with cost segregation over the last several years, there's also another big benefit. Not only can we segregate out assets that can be depreciated, say, over 5 years or 7 years or 15 years, but those assets, anything with an IRS class life is what it's called, of less than 20 years, can be written off in full immediately if a client so chooses. So possibly on this $1 million building, you might have $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 of components that can be segregated out that a client can get an immediate write-off. We have one client, the first client that I spoke about earlier that was responsible for you and I meeting in the first place. He got involved in, I think, 4 different DSTs with Kingsbarn, Kingsbarn does cost segregation on its DSTs as a standard practice without anybody having to say, gee, you should think about it. You guys are already on it. This is part of what you do. So cost segregation was done on all 4 of his properties, and he has enough depreciation carried over to make him a non-taxpayer for about the next 3 or 4 years.
That's huge.
It is. It is. And he was not a non-taxpayer in his prior real estate that he exchanged into the DSTs. He had a decent amount of income and a hefty amount of tax. Now he's got, I think, a greater amount of income, and he's a non-taxpayer. I think I've done 2 years of tax returns for him already, and we have probably another 3 more where he won't be a taxpayer. So to say he's happy would be an understatement.
Well, I appreciate hearing that. So aside from everything we've covered, is there anything else that you'd like to share about, that you'd like others to know about Kingsbarn?
Well, as I said, I'm very impressed with the professionalism and the communication with Kingsbarn. And one of the things I think to look at, people ask questions sometimes, well, how are they doing and how are their projects and is everything going just the way it was planned? And the answer is not in all cases. And I have a reason for saying this. I'll use financial advisors as an example. With financial advisors, clients have sometimes said to me, well, with my advisor, I made, 10% last year. Well, the stock market was up, 20%. Anybody could have made you 10%. In good times, that's not really how you judge the professionalism and the quality of an advisor or a company like Kingsbarn in this case. So with Kingsbarn, some of the properties some of the DSTs that Kingsbarn has promoted, especially those with commercial office space,
Yes.
have not performed exactly the way that was intended. And a great way for me to judge Kingsbarn is, okay, when things are not going well, how are you guys doing? How are you doing? What are you doing? Are you communicating with clients? Are you trying to fix it just like with a financial advisor? When the stock market is down, how are we doing? When the stock market is up, it's very easy. Everybody's doing well. When real estate is up, when places are fully leased, I'm sure Kingsbarn DSTs and everybody else's DSTs, they look wonderful. But when things aren't going exactly as planned, that's when I think you see the true quality of the company. And what, again, has impressed me is that as we've had, my clients express their concerns about, well, what's happening with the property and leasing it and distributions and whatever, all the folks that we've dealt with at Kingsbarn have been completely forthcoming, have given answers. Nobody has tried to hide. Nobody has tried to say, oh, no, there's no issue here at all. You guys have been terrific in that respect. And that to me is more of a judgment of this company than if you said, yeah, everything's going well, we've never had a problem, every real estate we've ever bought is tripled in value. No, it's more when things are not going as planned. And again, that's how I judge the quality of the company, and that has really impressed me with Kingsbarn.
Couldn't have said that better. And you're absolutely right. So why would right now be the right time for an investor to go into a DST with Kingsbarn?
Well, again, it depends on the investor, and it depends on whether it's the right time for them to look at a DST, their stage of life, their willingness to still participate in management or to be involved with other partners in real estate. If it's the right time in a client's life to do so, a DST is a great option, and a DST with Kingsbarn, for all the reasons we've talked about, I think is a great option because of the company. Now, Kingsbarn has properties all over the country, all kinds of different properties, office and medical and retail and industrial and multifamily. So there's a wide variety of offerings nationwide. So a client can exchange out of their real estate and exchange into multiple DSTs. Kingsbarn's always got several different projects available at any time that I've ever dealt with you with our clients investing. So a client can invest into multiple projects, multiple different types of real estate, multiple different areas of the country, and therefore they can get diversified. And normally we think about it, and if you say to a client, listen, why don't you sell your one industrial building and go buy 5 other properties, all you've done for that client is say, here's 5 times the headache that we're going to give you.
Absolutely.
Now if I say to the client, sell the industrial property, or you're thinking of selling it, great, let's go sell it. Now let's invest in 5 different DSTs. There's no headache. There's good diversification for a client. And so even if one of the properties may not perform exactly as hoped for, you've got the other 4. So all of these things considered, this is why I would definitely recommend a Kingsbarn DST to a client.
So then who is the ideal candidate for a DST?
You know, I don't want to limit that and say it would have to be somebody who fits into this profile. But if I had to try to generalize, I would say it would be an investor who is getting older. And by that, I would say in their 50s, 60s, 70s, above, and who really doesn't want the management headache, who just wants a predictable income. They've maybe achieved some financial success in their life. They'd like to protect and preserve that. They want to be in high quality assets. They want a good return on their investment, but they don't want the management headache. Now they'd like to go out and enjoy what it is that they've been able to produce in life without having to be tied to their real estate, without having to worry about all the things that maybe when they were in their 20s or 30s or 40s weren't as big a deal. So I would say generally, without this sounding negative in any way, the older investor who is just looking for something that is quality, predictable, passive income without the headache, so that they can go out and enjoy life a little bit.
So we've covered a lot. Are there any other tips that you would give to an investor considering Kingsbarn? Helpful tips?
Well, most helpful tip would be ask as many questions as you want to ask. And again, I'll repeat, it's not just you. You deal on the front line with the investors, but everybody at Kingsbarn, in the time my clients have looked at investing, everybody has been more than willing to meet, to have phone calls, to answer email questions, whatever. Ask as many questions as you want, as many as you can. Ask about other projects, ask about other properties, ask about what happens when the project doesn't go as planned. You know, again, I think that's a very important thing. So
Absolutely.
I don't think with Kingsbarn that there's really anything to hide here. I've never felt like in dealing with my clients that there was a rush to get them to invest. Well, let's get their money now. Let's just get them in this project. I always have felt like you guys were more than willing to take whatever time was needed to answer all the clients' questions, so that by the time they said yes to an investment, they felt completely comfortable and they felt actually cared for. And I don't want to say part of the family, that may be a little overdone, but they felt like they were definitely cared for more than just as a dollar sign.
Yeah.
And that's what the people here at this company have done.
You know, Gene, like I tell you all the time, you're an absolute wealth of knowledge, and I really appreciate you sharing your insight, especially from the tax background that you have, sharing that with us today. So thank you for your time, and
You got it.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
You got it.
Thank you, Gene.